Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's live session. Today, we are going to continue our series on the US and Israel versus Iran conflict. And we will start our understanding, our learning about Israel-Palestine conflict so that we will understand the complete picture about why Israel is constantly at war with its neighbors. What is the reason of its hostilities? However, from my past experience of many years, what I've realized is most of the people in our country simply do not have a good understanding about the Jewish community. Who are the Jews? What is their culture? What is their identity? What are their religious beliefs? And they don't have any understanding about how the state of Israel got created, how the Jews were persecuted for nearly 2000 years, what were the reasons of problems existing between the Jews and the Christians resulting in that persecution. And that is why their understanding of this Israel-Palestine conflict is very, very superficial. So, starting today, we'll conduct a series of sessions in which we will understand all these aspects in great detail. So, for today's session, we'll study about who the Jews really are and we'll understand their history, their culture, and their identity. Without this, you will never be able to understand the Middle East geopolitics at all. If you really want to understand what is going on in the Middle East right now, right from Israel till Yemen, you need to have a very good understanding about the history of the Jewish community. So, first, in today's session, we'll understand who the Jews really are, and we'll understand as much as we can about their religion, their identity, their history. And then in the next session, we'll understand about the historic problems between Jews and Christians, which led to Jewish persecution for nearly 2000 years, and how that eventually resulted in the creation of the state of Israel. Then we will study what are the three main issues around which this whole Israel-Palestine conflict revolves. And through that, we will be able to understand why right now there is this war going on between Iran and US and Israel on the other side. So let's start our today's session. Now, guys, most of the people do not understand what the Jewish faith is, what Judaism is, and they are under the impression that it's some different kind of a religion. What they don't know is Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all have the same roots, all have the same history. When I teach this in the class, it comes as a big shock to everyone. These three faiths together are called Abrahamic faiths because of the prophet Abraham. The line of prophets in all these three religions is common. I'll explain it in detail in a while. Now, the most important prophet for all three faiths, other than Christ and Muhammad for Christians and Muslims respectively, is the prophet Abraham. So, Prophet Abraham, it is said, was born in 2150 BC in the city of Ur, which is in modern day Iraq, and he died somewhere around 1975 BC in what is Hebron today in West Bank. This is the city. You can see in the photograph Ziggurat of Ur, which is a famous archaeological site in the city of Ur in Iraq, which is 200 miles southeast of Baghdad. This is said to be the place where Prophet Abraham was born. And this is where he is buried, Cave of the Patriarch, which is nearly 20 to 30 kilometers south of Jerusalem. Abraham, along with his wife Sarah, then Abraham's son Isaac, along with his wife Rebecca, and then his son Jacob and Leah, they are all buried there. Abrahamic faiths together, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, they are called Abrahamic faiths. They have common roots, line of prophets starting from Adam. So, how it works is all the prophets are common between these three religions, but for Jews, the last prophet is Malachi. So there is this line of prophecy starting from Adam and ending at Malachi. Those are Jews. The line of prophecy extends further and comes till Jesus Christ, that is for Christians. And this line of prophecy extends further and comes till Muhammad. This is for Muslims. So this is how things are common in terms of history in these three religions. And the names are little different when they refer to their religious text. For instance, Abraham is the name used in Bible. Avram as well as Abraham is the name used in Jewish religious texts. Ibrahim is the name used in Muslim religious text. Same way, Musa is the name of the prophet used in Muslims, Moses in Christians, Moshe in Jews. The same prophet. Then Joseph in Christians, Yosef in Jews, Yusuf in Muslims. The same prophet is known by different names. Ishmael in Bible, Ishmael in Jewish religious text, Ismail in Muslim religious text. Then who are the Jews? These are the people who believe in the same God in which Abraham believed. They are monotheists. They believe in only one God and a formless God. They are strictly against idol worshipping. There are around 50 million Jews worldwide, very small population, mainly concentrated in the United States and in Israel. They are strictly against idol worshipping. They believe in a formless God and they do not encourage conversions. Conversions are allowed. You can convert and become a Jew, but the good thing about this faith is they do not encourage it and they do not actively carry out conversion activities the way Christians and Muslims do. The good thing about that faith, one of the most beautiful things about the Jewish faith is it clearly preaches that you do not need to be a Jew in order to be righteous in the eyes of God. If you want to go to heaven, you can be a good human being. Even if you're not a Jew, you will enter the kingdom of heaven. So that is the good thing about this faith. Then they are against idol worshipping. In fact, Prophet Abraham in the Midrash Genesis Rabbah 38, which is more like a collection of Jewish religious literature. In it, there is one of the stories in which Abraham's father, who was a merchant of idols, he used to have a shop where he used to sell idols. Prophet Abraham had completely broken down all the idols because he was strictly against it. He believed in a God which was against this. They don't encourage conversions. Male child is circumcised, common practice between Muslims and Jews. Then they wear yarmulke or kippa all the time, the small skull cap, which you must have seen on TV, being worn by Orthodox Jews or Jews in general. Looks something like this. That is called kippa or yarmulke. They wear it all the time. And then they wear talit, that is their prayer shawl during prayers or even otherwise all the time. This is what the talit looks like. Then their prayer center or the religious place is called a synagogue. What mosque is for Muslims, what church is for Christians, synagogue is for Jews. It's nothing but a prayer hall. There are no idols there. It's just a prayer hall where people can congregate for prayers. Then there is a custom of what is called minyan or quorum, which means in the Jewish synagogue, you cannot start religious ceremonies if there are less than 10 people present. You need minimum 10 people present in order to start any kind of prayer service or religious function. That is one of their religious rules. Then throughout the world, they are known for their dietary habits. Kosher, there is a very strict law they follow regarding diet, what they are supposed to eat, what they are not supposed to eat. Core principles of kosher, for instance, what is permitted, what is forbidden. In land animals, you can eat only those animals which have split hooves and chew the cud. For example, sheep, goats, cows. Pigs are forbidden. Pork is completely forbidden. In seafood, you can only eat fish which has fin and scales. So, shellfish like shrimp, crab, lobster, or fishes which do not have scales cannot be eaten. Then, most birds can be eaten except predator birds like eagles, hawks, or owls. Eagles, hawks, owls, and other birds which are predatory in nature, they are forbidden. Then, you cannot eat meat and dairy together. So, there has to be a few hours gap in it. That is kosher. Their religious pandit, as we call in India, or Maulvi, we call in Muslims, their religious priest is called a rabbi. And the unique thing about this community is it is very, very common if you travel to a country like the United States or other European countries or even in Israel to find that there are rabbis who perform the role of a rabbi in a local synagogue, and at the same time are very successful professional in their individual field, or are very successful and prosperous businessmen. For instance, if you go on the internet, you will find information about Rabbi Daniel Lepin. He is a consultant, and he provides advisory and consultant services to businesses regarding how they can scale up, how they can grow their business. His book, Thou Shall Prosper, is a very famous book regarding how you can scale your business. Then, for example, you have Rabbi Dr. Akiva Tatz. He's a very well-known surgeon. He's a doctor by profession. So this is very, very common in the Jewish community, very rare in other communities. Generally, in Christians and Muslims, you will find that the priests are full-time priests. They don't do anything else in life. They are just priests. Now, they observe Sabbath from Friday evening, beginning with sunset till Saturday evening. The unique thing about the Jewish community, and in fact, even with Muslims, their day starts with sunset. In India, in the Hindu community, day starts with sunrise. But for them, the day starts with sunset, and Saturday is the holy day for them. They observe Sabbath on that day. All the Jewish businesses are closed on Saturday. That day is devoted to God. Now, this is another famous rabbi. He passed away in history. He is very well known, Rabbi Chaim Kreisworth. He was a very famous Jewish diamond merchant. Now, most of you will not be knowing, globally, diamond business is completely dominated by Jews. He actually was based in Antwerp, which is the global capital of diamond trade. If you go on the internet and check, New York's diamond district, which is considered one of the biggest diamond trading hubs in the world, it's almost 99% dominated by Jews. So it's the industry itself is dominated by Jews. Now, this is a photograph of a Jewish family observing Sabbath. Bar mitzvah is the ceremony, the way Brahmins in India have thread ceremony. The same way, bar mitzvah is the coming of age ceremony. This is generally performed when a boy or a girl reaches the age of 13. After that, they are considered adult, and they are considered fully a responsible member of the Jewish community. Then some of their famous festivals are Hanukkah, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. You can read more about it on the internet. That is homework for you. Otherwise, our session will become very long. And the Jewish laws, the religious laws regarding everyday activities of life, how you should live in a society, laws related to marriage, related to business, related to how your day-to-day conduct should be. That is called halakha. It's very similar to how Sharia is for Muslims and how the canon laws are for Christians. For them, the most important religious place in the world is Jerusalem. Here, you must have seen this Temple Mount in news all the time. It is believed it was constructed by Prophet Solomon, common to all three faiths. In Muslims, he's known as Salman. Our actor Salman Khan, the famous celebrity, is named after him. This Temple Mount was constructed, it is believed, somewhere around 950 BC. However, for the Jewish community, the Western Wall, one of the parts of this Temple Mount, because the temple does not exist anymore, it was broken down by the Romans in 70 AD, and since then the remnants are the only things left. So this Western Wall which is very important for the Jewish community. It is also known as Wailing Wall. You will always see the Jewish community standing there for prayers. This is Donald Trump standing at the Wailing Wall. Now, the Jewish community has a huge influence in the US political system because of their financial muscle. They are extremely successful, and throughout history they have been disproportionately wealthy. What do I mean by disproportionately wealthy? Now, let's say if you are 3% of a country's population, ideally you should have around 3% of that country's wealth. But with the Jewish community, the unique thing was, and let's say if they were 3% of the country's population, still they were having 50, 60, 70% of that country's wealth in their pockets. And throughout history, they have been exceptionally successful, very good in terms of innovation, in terms of creativity, very intelligent people. So, if you have to give examples about their success stories, what kind of examples can you give? Let's see a few examples, and this will be very shocking for you. First, foremost, I can talk about Levi's jeans. Levi's is a brand which was started by a person by the name of Strauss Levi's. He was born in Germany, in Bavaria. He went to the United States, and this brand was established around 1853. Today, it's a household name. In fact, that fabric denim was created by him. Then I'm sure most of you will not recognize this person. He was born in Ukraine, and to escape the political problems going on in the Soviet Union during the 70s and 80s, a lot of people were migrating to Western countries. So his family also left Ukraine and came to the United States. He struggled a lot because of poverty, studied under a lamp, went on to become an engineer, started working for big companies, lost his job due to recession in around 2008. And then, you have to do something to earn money. So he thought of starting something new. And, he started a company in a basement, which went on to completely revolutionize and change the way we communicate with our near and dear ones today. He designed something which we commonly call WhatsApp today. He's the one and only Yan Kum. His company, WhatsApp, his brand, his creation was sold for a whopping $19 million. I'm sure you know about the Facebook deal, which took place a few years ago. So that is, he's a Jew. Then Facebook's creator, Mark Zuckerberg, is a Jew. Then you have Larry Page and Sergey Brin. Both are Jewish, and they have given us what we know as Google. Then you have Bert Baskins, Irv Robbins. They gave us something which we call Baskin Robbins, the famous ice cream band. Then you have Ben Cohen and Jerry Greenfield. They gave us the famous, world famous ice cream brand, that is Ben and Jerry's. Then you have William Rosenberg. He gave us Dunkin' Donuts, again a world famous brand. Then you have Larry Ellison, who gave us Oracle. He is a Jew. Then you have these four brothers, Sam Warner, Jack Warner, Harry Warner. These four brothers gave us Warner Brothers. If you like watching Hollywood movies, you are familiar with this logo. Then Steven Spielberg, we all know he gave us Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, many more beautiful movies. In fact, Hollywood is completely dominated by the Jewish community. Some of the best directors, producers, actors are from the Jewish community. Michael Dell, who gave us Dell, he is Jew. Then Bill Clinton, the most successful tenure of any US president in the last 60 to 70 years has been of Bill Clinton. When he took over the office of the President of the United States in 1992, the US economy was in a very bad shape. It was having a deficit of $290 billion. By the time he left in 2000, he had turned it completely around, and the US economy was having a surplus of $236 billion. And this success was credited to his team, especially to members like Robert Rubin, who was his finance secretary. In India, it is the equivalent of finance minister. Then you had William Cohen, who was his defense secretary, defense minister in Indian language. Then Madeleine Albright, who was the foreign minister, and James Rubin, who was the assistant secretary of state, assistant foreign minister, you can say. And guess what? All of them were Jews. So the success of Bill Clinton as a president was attributed to his team, which was having very intelligent Jewish minds working for him. Then Hollywood is completely dominated by Jews. My God, you can sit whole night and talk about their success and the names: Sean Penn, Dustin Hoffman, then Ben Stiller, Daniel Radcliffe, Adam Sandler, long list of actors. Yeah, and I'm sure you all must have loved watching Friends. Guess what? The team which created Friends, that is Martha Kaufman, Kevin Bright, and David Crane, they were all Jewish. Even two of the six lead actors, that is David Schwimmer and Lisa Kudrow, are both Jewish. So these people are very, very gifted, at creating the best of everything. Naturally talented people. Then Albert Einstein, Sigmund Freud, the father of modern psychology, Ayn Rand. I'm sure if you love reading novels, you must have read Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged. So that was written by Ayn Rand. Then Harry Houdini, the greatest magician who ever lived on planet Earth. All of them were Jewish. They are perfectionists. They're the best in whatever they do. And then Larry King and Wolf Blitzer, the famous Larry King is no more. He conducted a show on CNN for nearly 30 to 40 years where he used to just take interviews. It was one of the most watched shows across the world. Now, let's talk about Nobel Prize. Now, ever since the Nobel Prize started, nearly 900 people have received this prize from 1901. And guess what? Out of these 900 people, 12 are Indians or someone of Indian origin, person of Indian origin, PIO. But out of these 900 people, more than 120 are Jews, and that too of US alone. So you can understand they are perfectionists, they're excellent in whatever they do. So, and they've given a lot to the world in terms of medicine, in terms of literature. They're the best of architects, best of everything they do. That is why they wield so much power in the United States politics. Okay. In 2015, there was this study carried out by Forbes magazine, and which was able to prove that out of the top 50 billionaires in the world, 10 were Jewish. Now just imagine 20% of the top 50 billionaires in the world were Jewish. And in the global population, they are just 0.15%. But in terms of billionaires, they were 20%. So you can imagine the financial muscle they wield because of their excellence in work, because of their extreme creativity, innovation, and all the good things that they have given to the world. Extremely successful and disproportionately wealthy throughout history, highly creative and innovative people. So that brings us to the end of today's session. Tomorrow, we will study how and why Jews were persecuted throughout history leading up to the creation of the State of Israel. In fact, not tomorrow. We'll take this session on Friday, and we'll study in a very detailed manner why the Jews were persecuted throughout history. It will be a very informative session, and you must watch it if you really want to understand the geopolitics of the Middle East and global geopolitics today. I'm sure you found this video very informative. Please like it and please share it with everyone you know who can benefit from it, especially if you know someone who is preparing for SSB or any kind of UPSC or government exam. Then please don't forget to watch the Psychology Foundation course. Go to the playlist of Psychology Foundation course. I've uploaded videos there for 2 weeks course. It will help you a lot in understanding about TAT, VAT, and SRT. And personal interview videos also, go to the personal interview playlist and watch the videos there. It will help you a lot in preparing for personal interview. So that brings us to the end of today's session. I'll see you on Friday. Till then, please take very good care of yourself and enjoy the rest of your evening. CRQ8HS, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And Solanki Shu, Jai Hind, sir. Jai Hind, beta. Chalo, ending the session here. Good night. Bye-bye.